traumatic, painful, and degrading. Sex trafficking is something most of us don't want to even think about, and usually we don't. The question, is it happening here? The answer in this Black Hills Fox special report, Sold for Sex, Trapped by Fear. You won't see women of the night for sale on the streets of western South Dakota. There is no red light district, but sex trafficking has many faces. Consider a young person on a cold street with no place to go when somebody appears to come to the rescue.
Look, you can stay on my couch, we'll get you high, we'll get you drunk, you can eat when we eat, but like, I have some buddies that show up and you're gonna have to take care of them. Now, the alternative is them walking around the streets not knowing if they're going to sleep under a bridge. So did they want to have sex with these guys? No. But will they? Yes.
No question that sex trafficking happens in our area, and I think people are naive to think that it can't occur in rural parts of America.
The beautiful Black Hills, Rapid City, where grain is still stored on the edge of downtown.
In what ways did the traffickers use you?
They used me in hotels where I was prostituted out of, exotic dance, films, escort services, which is just a glamorized version of being prostituted.
You will do this, and you do that. And then you get trapped, and then you feel so filthy. You feel so gross, you feel so unworthy, you feel so invaluable.
There is a demand here in western South Dakota. The majority of individuals that have been arrested during the Sturgis sting have been local people.
Special Agent Gromer says he doesn't believe demand in western South Dakota is any worse or better than anywhere else.
Any time that you have poverty and hopelessness, it certainly will lead to victimization and vulnerability. And that's the population that often falls prey to individuals that are looking at sex trafficking.
A woman we're calling Carol says she started using drugs at age 11, and many times men would ask if she wanted to get drunk or high, and she did.
I was willing to take the risk of being raped to get those drugs.
Carol is sober now. She says she hasn't used drugs in decades.
While officials say sex trafficking does happen here, they also say it's tough to prosecute these kind of cases.
Because they come about sometimes years later, and it's hard to go back and reconstruct that evidence.
Given the nature of their victimization, they may not have even been clear-headed at the time that some of the victimization was done.
But they will use signals to you that tell you show up or die, show up or your family will die.
I got beat up pretty bad, and I was reminded that it would not be me. It would be my children. And when they have a list of your family members' names and they know who they are and where they are and what they do and who all can be affected, you don't cross that line. And if I happen to die tomorrow, at least I was able to put out there that this is real.
They call themselves survivors, not victims, now free from the grips of the predators who once controlled them. Kelly Patterson is the pastor of a local church. She now works with other survivors of sex trafficking, and she recently published a book about her life named From Trafficked to Treasured.
So, Steve, why don't we hear from more survivors?
That's an excellent question, and it's one that I asked Kelly, and she says it took her decades to talk about it publicly. So she says most survivors that are freshly out of that trade are fragile, they're broken, they're terrified, and you add in a feeling of shame, and she says that all those things combined will keep you very quiet.